Alrighty then, so it's Charli Wall. Welcome to my podcast. I've got the lovely Sheridan James with me here this evening. So welcome, Sheridan.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for agreeing to be my guest. So we're live streaming on Facebook, and this will also be going on YouTube. So would you like to tell the listeners a little bit about you, introduce yourself, please?
Oh gosh. I'm Sheridan. I am have been for the last 12 years splitting my time between Egypt and Cambridge, UK, and I run a business there and a business here, so busy. And I was introduced to Charli. I was trying to work it out. I think it's actually 2016, right?
Oh gosh, no. We met because that was the year my father died. So we met a couple of years before that. It was definitely 3 or 4 years before that, I'm sure.
Oh, really? Oh my goodness me. Well,
Yeah.
the time has certainly flown. Yeah. So in the beginning, I contacted Charli because I wanted to kind of get in shape because I was very unhappy about my physique and so on. And in those days, Charli was a fitness coach, personal trainer, and also running boot camps. And that's how we first got to know each other. And then later on, Charli became my coach, not physical fitness coach, but personal coach. And we started exploring sort of different ways of thinking about life, you can say.
Mental wellness.
Yes, exactly, mental wellness. And I can, without wanting to sound too cliched, I think it's completely changed my life.
Yay!
And I think I've gone from a very stressed, I'm not saying I don't ever get any of these things now, of course, because we're human and we all have our up days and down days, but I was super stressed, super unhappy, angry a lot, you know, not.
Oh, I think I've lost you.
And I think I can say that I'm radically different from that now. I don't do those things.
Sheridan, I don't know if you can hear me. Sheridan, I don't know if you can hear me. We lost you just for like 10 seconds there. So you said I was really angry and then it died for a bit and then you came back.
Yeah, okay. So I was saying that I seem to be angry a lot of the time, and that would sort of come flying out mostly on people who I was quite close to, actually. Doesn't do very well for your family and personal relationships.
No.
I think that what I feel now is completely transformed from that way of being, and I'm much more. I feel that I'm much more calm and peaceful, and not feeling responsible for everybody and everything that's happening in the world, which is kind of where I was at before. Constantly overthinking things, constantly seeing things in a negative way, constantly anxious and worried and stressed by everything. And I think the thing that I would say the thing that I've most come to realize, I was just really, this is a very recent kind of revelation, if you like, is that it actually doesn't matter. Nothing actually really matters. I had convinced myself most of my life that everything mattered extremely, to the extreme, and that most of the time I was responsible for that. I was the person who was responsible to make sure everything was as it should be. But I think that I've got to the point now where I, first of all, don't believe that anymore, that everything is my responsibility, but also that ultimately nothing really matters. Nothing is really that crucial, or, no children will die if I don't do all those things that I thought I had to do before. You know,
can you remember like what the insight or the tipping point was for you to go from being like feeling responsible, feeling like you had to fix, controlling, I'm guessing, came into that? Can you remember, like, was it a moment, or was it a gradual kind of understanding, or giving yourself a break? Can you remember the sort of...
I think it's a kind of, I think it's a gradual thing, really, because I think even though I could have a moment of going, oh right, okay, the habits are so strong that you get sucked back into it, really, that way, that habitual way of thinking and doing and being. I think it's hard to just suddenly wake up one day and all those habits are miraculously gone. I think that's unrealistic. And I think in my case, I kind of definitely had one of those kind of wow, yeah, moments, but I could easily lapse into that old way of thinking and being. But the difference is that I could recognize it. I could go, oh yeah. And a good example of that is I'm traveling on Friday, and habitually I've always got really stressed in the days leading up to traveling, even though I travel a lot. So it's not like it's an unusual thing for me or something strange for me. You know, I fly or travel like literally every few weeks, I would say. But I tend to get into this, it's a habit. I get into this kind of really anxious, stressful state about, oh, I've got to do this and I've got to do that and I've got to do the other. And sometimes just a feeling of anxiety, that kind of, you know, in the pit of your stomach anxiety feeling, which is what I was feeling this morning, actually. And then I thought, it's okay to feel like this. This is completely okay, you know, and it will pass. You know, there is nothing that's going to happen that is going to prevent you traveling. Well, even if there is, so what? You know, things will work themselves out. You know, it will somehow come right. So, for example, because I've got to have a COVID test, a negative COVID test to enter the country that I'm going into, I was thinking, oh, what if I get a positive test? Oh, and then I was thinking, and what if you do? What if you do? It's fine. You'll just delay your trip and do whatever it is they want you to do. You'll meanwhile go and have another one just to check that wasn't a false positive, etc., etc. You know, so it'll be fine. You know, but in the past, I would have been like completely paralyzed with anxiety about what if, what if, what if, what if the pet sitter doesn't turn up? They will. And if they don't, one of my neighbours will look after my dog until he does, you know. All that kind of anxious thinking that I used to have about virtually everything just is not there anymore. And when it does come up, because it does sometimes, I recognize it and go, oh, look, there's me going down that rabbit hole, or there's me making up a big story.
So what's that given you? Only a little bit, only a tiny bit, but I'm not sure if it's me or I don't know if it's me, to be honest, because there's lots of people here on the internet, but we're still going, so it's okay. What has that given you, that, you know, now that you're not living in this, it seems like quite a constant state of anxiety, particularly around traveling, which you were doing a lot. What has that opened up for you?
Well, the first thing that pops into my mind is freedom, actually. I mean, it gives me the freedom to do the things I want to do, knowing that it's all going to be okay. Whatever happens, it's all fine. I'm going to be fine. Whatever happens is going to happen. Thinking about it, overthinking about it, or worrying about it, or running these little films in my head about what might happen, is, when you think about it logically, is ridiculous, because how can you ever know what is going to happen in 10 years' time? You can't know that. You know, it's impossible. You can guess and you can make a story up about it, but ultimately, you know, I think one of the things that I've also realized is, you know, if I think back to the time when we were first working together, and I was so caught up in worrying about what if this happens and what if that happens, that I was never sort of enjoying what was happening.
Yeah.
So instead of just enjoying the moment, I think that's another thing that's given me. It's given me much more sense of presence in the moment. So, for example, every day when I walk my dog, I'm just like in this blissed out state of now it's the autumn, and today was a beautiful sunny day. And it was like, oh my God, this is just so amazing and so beautiful. And, I just, when your head is running with all these stories, you don't even notice it. You don't
Yeah.
appreciate it. You don't get any sort of, um, I want to say sort of like nutrition from it. You don't get nurtured.
Nourishment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that nurturing nourishment from being in nature, that enjoyment, that peace.
And the irony for me in this is that I'm a farmer's daughter. I have a farm. I'm very much outside with animals, with nature, and all the rest of it. And I feel like most of my life, in that way of life, I haven't noticed most of what's been around me. There's sort of some deep irony in here somewhere, that even though I was, for me, being in nature, being outside, being in a kind of an agricultural sort of farming kind of countryside, natural environment has always been what I felt most comfortable in. At the same time, I feel like most of the time I wasn't really paying attention to it. So I think one of the other things that it's given me much more of a sense of the absolute wonder and awe of creation, I suppose, really. I in my farm, when I have to help one of my cows deliver a calf, I mean, that's an amazing thing to be able to do.
Yeah.
And before it would be like, oh bloody hell, I have to go and pull a calf, no, and being really kind of like
Yeah,
this
on
is
to the
a
next thing.
chore, and this is
Yeah.
something I feel like is a burden on me.
Mm.
Now it's the complete opposite for me. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be able to do this thing. Wow, it's going to be amazing. And and sometimes there's not a happy ending, and most of the time there's a happy ending. But whatever happens, happens, and being able to be part of that and to be present in that moment, and to really appreciate the wonder of it all, if you like. It's just amazing. It's just amazing. It's just made me very much appreciate what I do have, and stop complaining about what I think I want or should have or whatever. Because actually, what I've come to the conclusion is that how my life is and what I have in my life is absolutely what I have ordered in it, if you see what I mean. It's what I've brought into it,
Yeah.
knowingly or unknowingly, but knowingly keep it there. So it's my choice. If there's something in my life that I'm not happy about, I can see now that that's what I'm choosing. It's a choice, because I can choose other things, and I can choose to think about them in a different way as well. So I even the things that
Yeah.
make me a bit unhappy, or I have sort of low thinking about, or sad thinking about, I realize that it's me who's doing that. It's me who's making it a sad thing and making it about me when it's nothing to do with me. And that's particularly true of relationships, I think, as well. In relationships, I do that, and I have done that a lot. I'm doing it a lot less.
Yeah, I love what you said there. I think that's really that's so insightful, and you articulated that really well. Just that, I have a choice, I have free will, where before, I think, like you, I didn't feel like I had a choice. There were lots of things that I felt like I had to do, and I got to keep busy and do all the time, and created anxiety. And actually, when you slow down, when you take stock, and you kind of look at the bigger picture, you realize, yeah, I have a choice in how I respond or react or connect or disconnect. So I love the way, I love that. I love that you said that.
I mean, I think, for example, my son asked me a really interesting question, actually, a couple of days ago. Because I have at the moment, my relationship with my daughter is quite difficult for her, because for me, I'm okay with it, actually. And he was comparing it to my relationship with my middle son, who I had a long period of my life where we didn't have any contact at all. And he asked, when he was talking about how I'm dealing with my daughter, he was asking me, he asked me, actually, which I thought was really nice, what did you learn when you were dealing with the son, not him, another son, who I was estranged from for quite a number of years. And the same applies to my relationship with him as well. What changed, what made those relationships much better, and in fact made them what they are now, which is two very good, solid relationships, is that I stopped trying. I stopped trying to make it okay. I stopped trying to fix it. I stopped pushing, basically. I just was, and got on with my life, and, let them be until they were in a position where they were ready to go, I want to have that connection. I'm ready for that now. Because the only thing I can control, the only thing I've got a say over, if you like, is me. I can't force them, or I can't explain to them, or I can't. When I start to try and sort of justify myself in a situation, then what I realize I'm doing is that I'm putting my thinking or my reality onto theirs, and it isn't the same.
Yeah.
The way that they think, or other people think about life or relationships or whatever, is their thing. The same as I have to be responsible for what is my thing. What's my thinking about it? What's my understanding of it? And I think that was a real insight for me when I realized that what changed things was that I stopped trying. I just thought, well, I'm here and I'm going to do my thing and I'm going to get on with my life, and they know where I am, and they know that I love them. They know that I'm here for them if they want. And and that changed everything. And I'm because I had to slip back into I have to fix the relationship with my daughter thing, and then I just realised, no, I don't at all, because actually it's not broken. It's just as it is.
So like, did you just like hit the nail on the head anyway? Like, it's not broken. We are not broken. You're not broken. It's not broken.
It's absolutely fine. It's absolutely fine. And at this point, it is as it is. And I don't have to make that mean anything about me, because I know that I'm okay, and that everything I've done in relation to her, or I'm using her as an example, I've done it, with the best of intentions, with love, with with care, with my best efforts at that any given time.
Yeah.
And even if it wasn't as good, if you like, as it might have been, it doesn't matter, because I did my best, and that's all that you can do, your best. And after that, it's like, I did my best, thank you, let's move on. And I think a lot of my life, and I'm sure other women in particular can relate to this, we're so caught up in trying to make everything okay for everybody else, looking after everybody else, and putting ourselves at the bottom of the pile all the bloody time. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's all right. You can swear on this podcast. It's fine.
You notice how I haven't sworn.
I know. It's a miracle.
Yeah. But I think that's sort of something that we're conditioned as women in particular.
Yeah.
Some men like that, there are, clearly. But I think women in particular are conditioned to always put themselves at the bottom of the pile, always blame themselves when something goes wrong, or seems to be wrong, or somebody isn't happy, it must be your fault. And I think that to realise that actually that's not the case, that putting yourself at the bottom of the pile is just playing into that narrative about how women are there to serve, women are there to, you know, it's our responsibility to make things be okay. It's not. It's everybody's responsibility to make sure that we are, you know, each of us is okay ourselves first. And I think then that's when you can be of service, because I think when you try and be and you're frozen.
Yeah, no, you froze, but it's all right. You're back now. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah. I think it's really important to kind of, you know, serve yourself first, almost, which is the complete antithesis of what we're trained, especially as women. Like women never, if you think about even food, for example, you know, you feed all the family and then you feed yourself, even in that. And in the culture that I live in when I'm not here, absolutely, you know, the men are fed, and after they send their plates back in, the women eat, you know. So it's just like, that's like, I mean, that's the culture. And I think, you know,
that's the conditioning.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of always letting yourself be the bottom of the pile makes you not very good at looking after other people, actually, because I think you have to practice on yourself, if you know what I mean. You have to
of course. Absolutely. I completely agree. Like the human giver syndrome just leads to us kind of getting, you know, more anxious, more stressed, more depleted,
and more angry and resentful as well, actually. And I think that's a lot where my anger was coming from, was around that in particular, that I always felt, you know, why do I have to do everything? It's so unfair, you know. And like, I'm really resentful that I felt like I was shouldering the responsibility of half the world, you know, and any sort of, not only in my family, but, you know, like my own kids, but in my brother, when I was a kid as well, I felt that. So it came from very young. But also, I think people like me then tend to take on causes as well, which then adds to that burden. So, you know, I'm sort of, you know, I've got 3 small children and I'm towing them off, not now, but historically, towing them off to bloody peace marches over the show, and going and camping at Greenham Common, and, you know, doing my bit for world peace. Do you know what I mean? So I think then you just get so depleted in the end that you can't actually function in the way that makes you feel okay about yourself.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people, women especially, will really resonate with what you're saying. And it sounds to me like you have given yourself the gift of time and love and care.
I think that's true. But as I said before, I think it's very easy when you've got a lifetime of habits, a lifetime of conditioning, a lifetime of seeing the world in a very distorted way, in fact, actually, then I think it is quite easy to sort of slip back. But as I said, I think the difference for me now is that I can catch myself doing it and go, oh, hang on a minute, you're feeling really anxious, but actually that's okay. And you know what? It's not going to last forever. It's going to be, you know, it's going to be gone maybe in a couple of minutes, maybe in a couple of hours, maybe in a couple of days, but it definitely won't be around longer than that. So just ride it out and you'll be fine. And whereas I think we tend to want to make it all go away, and when we can't make it all go away, then there's the whole habit of the other habit of trying to block it because you don't want to feel that thing. You know, I don't want to feel anxious, so I'll just have 2 glasses of wine, 3 bars of chocolate, and then I can feel really shit about myself and beat myself up some more, and then get anxious about overeating, you know. So
you haven't got that so much, have you? I mean,
Oh God, no, not at all. I mean, and now, if I do have a few glasses of wine or eat a couple of bars of chocolate, I don't eat a couple of bars of chocolate in one go. Actually, I used to. But I don't do that anymore because I don't need to. But even if I did, it's like, oh well, I ate 2 bars of chocolate. That's interesting.
yeah. Rather than
Yeah, that's interesting. Now I feel a bit sick, actually.
so in that, what I hear is you can listen, you're hearing your body more as well.
Yeah, definitely. I was thinking about this in this last week actually about eating, because eating is a big thing for me, and overeating, and sort of I don't know that I'm necessarily a binge eater, but I think I easily could be. But I think I do tend to overeat sometimes. Um, and I was thinking about that in the last few days. I sort of found myself sort of grazing a bit in the evenings and thinking, that's interesting. I wonder why I'm doing that. I wonder what that's about. Whereas in the past, I've been like, oh my God, I'm so terrible. Why can't I control this? And I should be, I should. And
Yeah.
I'm this and I'm that and the other. And, actually, I can't remember who said it, but one of the 3Ps teachers said something about, they were talking about English people in particular, and that don't put enough full stops in their sentences.
Michael Neal.
Oh yeah. So he was saying, like, instead like, oh, I ate a lot of chocolate, full stop.
Yeah.
I ate a lot of chocolate, full stop. Not I ate a lot of chocolate, therefore I'm a bad, ridiculous, useless person, and I'm going to be fat and get spotty and la di da di. And if I was better and had more self control, I wouldn't be doing that. And la la la. He was just saying, you just need to put full stops in there. Like, I was very pissed off today. Full stop.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think just that in itself, having the awareness to do that is such a gift, because it stops this sort of cycle and this heaviness, this constant fog and heaviness of actually, Groundhog Day and continual self-beration and self-criticism, and that's such a gift. I know.
Yeah.
Because I know you've also done the Freedom Program, and you're in the Circle group, and I love you for that. I love you anyway. So what would you say to someone who is like a bit dubious, or on the fence about coming into either or? What would you say to a woman who's listening?
I think that the Freedom Program is absolutely what it is, what it says. That for me, even though, oh, my dog is just destroying my blinds. Never mind.
Winston.
He wants to look out the blind, and I put the blind down, so he's kind of got his huge big head through the blind and sort of squished it all open.
That's all right, go with it.
Yeah, so the Freedom Program, I absolutely 110, 50% even recommend the Freedom Program, because I think the thing about the Freedom Program is that it kind of gives you the building blocks on which you can then understand how you work as a human being in this world. And I think most of us, for sure, have gone through most of our lives completely misunderstanding how it works. I have, definitely.
Me too.
And I come from a social work, psychotherapy, counselling, addictions, similar background to you actually, working with addictions, etc., and thought I had it all cracked. And actually, how wrong was I? What I realised was that a lot of my techniques and working methodologies just serve to perpetuate the problem, not solve it, because you're not dealing with the underlying, or you're not addressing the reality. You're not addressing reality.
Well, I also think within that there's the kind of false belief that there's something that needs to be fixed.
Yes, exactly.
So we go through our lives looking for that. You know,
Yeah.
what can I do to fix this problem and this problem and this problem? Where we're looking is, you know, like, you're a whole person, you're not broken. Let's look at what's right with you and how all human beings work. And yeah, so.
Well, and also I think when you focus on historical events to define who you are right now, then you're onto a loser, because whatever has happened in the past is in the past. And if you choose to define yourself by that event or that I'm not saying those things aren't important and that they don't have impacts. Of course they do, and people suffer and have horrible experiences. But what I am saying is that if you right now totally define yourself by those past events, then you have no possibility of moving forward, because you're trapped. You're like constantly anchored into previous events or your history, if you like. And whilst history is relevant, holding on to it and reliving it. I mean, I used to counsel people to talk about, their childhood experiences and what's happened to them. And actually, I don't think it's helpful. Really don't. I mean, I think it's much more, as you said, about being in the here and now. And let's look at what's going on right now that you are creating for yourself, and what do you want to change, basically? How do you want to do that? To be much more kind of in the moment and in working in sort of contemporarily, rather than planning too much for the future or hanging on to the past. And I think that's, for me, has been really important as well, sort of letting go a lot of baggage as well. That my own past. I mean, I think people end up in the caring professions for a reason, actually. It's usually because they're in desperate need of that themselves,
Yeah, well, we're all looking for the answers, aren't we? We're all looking for peace of mind. And yeah, those of us that have been conditioned to care do go into the caring professions, but a lot of that is about either wanting to fix ourselves or others to be okay.
Yeah, definitely.
So we're out of time, and I know it's gone really quickly. The podcast is a bit shorter than normal, but thank you so much for your time and your wisdom and sharing so beautifully.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. I always love talking to you anyway, Charlie.
I know, we'll just stay there.
Towards me there.
We should do our own show. You stay there anyway, because I'm going to say goodbye on the podcast and on the Facebook group. So thank you for watching. If you have any questions about anything, either send me an email or write it on the Facebook group, wherever you're watching this. And we send you lots of love. Goodbye. Bye.